Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to another Mechabellum gameplay review. Today I've got a game for you that I played yesterday on stream against a very well-known player, Rat, and I think it really showcases what it means to have good map awareness and understanding where the gaps are in your opponent's defense. So without further ado, let's get into it. I start out being a quick supply specialist with arc lights and steel balls, and my opponent decides to start out with giant specialist and starting out with arc lights and phoenixes. Now, I really like to go aggressive whenever I get offered these units, and that's exactly what I do, but instead of picking up crawlers, which is my go-to normally, I decide to immediately go for mustangs because I see that my opponent already has the phoenixes and I want to give myself a shot at winning round one, basically. Now, both of us actually do position on the opposite sides of the board, and that means that we'll be running past one another for the first moments of this game. And yeah, we'll just have to see like how the tower debuffs work out in this situation. I was also kind of struggling here with the positioning, not having the crawlers, and also with the new UI that is part of the recent update. I was struggling a little bit to like figure out where I wanted the crawlers to be in the future. But yeah, here we go. And as expected, both of us getting through to the towers really fast. However, I am the first one, and usually that means that the round will not go in your favor. I am unable to make a lot of good use of this debuff, and now that my opponent grabs my tower, he's able to deal with all of my mustangs quite easily, and that means that these phoenixes will be able to clean up the remaining steel balls, meaning Rat takes the first round. So in this situation, we're offered a couple of options. I decide to pick portable shield here because I do have the steel balls and I thought that'd be good. Also, I don't know, I was more like inclined to try and defend here because I felt I needed to deal with the phoenixes, so strike specialist was not necessarily something I wanted to go for. My opponent, however, does go for strike specialist and already goes for the jump drive on the phoenixes, and yep, there it is, the flank phoenixes looking straight at my tower. We'll have to see how this works out. I do not believe that I managed to predict this. I just pick up the mustangs and complete the ball mustang combos. My opponent also decides to pick up some stormcallers, by the way, which have become a lot more viable and powerful ever since the nerf to the AMs, which was part also of the recent update. And it might have quite some effect, especially with the tower debuff. Yep, coming through, it means my units are slowed, and that gives the stormcallers a better chance, basically, of dealing with these steel balls. However, still, steel balls locking onto the tower. These ones with the shields are really tanky, and we do manage to get the debuff. However, most of my mustangs already dead, and with the final units over here dying, that does mean I have no more anti-air left to be able to deal with the phoenixes, and Rat will take this round. Just gotta wait a little bit for these balls with the shields to die, and yep, unfortunately I do not manage to win that round. Really creative use again of the flank. Now here I'm offered two options I think are viable. One is orbital, the other is charged ammo. The reason I don't go for orbital here, and both of us pick up charged ammo, is I don't really know where my opponent is going to move these, right? He can move his phoenixes every single round, and it is going to be really hard for me to guess where that is going to be. And I don't think it's worth investing the 100 just to like kill an arc light and a pack of stormcallers. Stormcallers here are given charged ammo, trying to slow down the ball stang rushes, as well as probably disable some of the tech that I might get on these. And I decide to put charged ammo on the mustangs, which is a really powerful combo. Again, this is more preemptively. My opponent doesn't really have any tech upgrades that need disabling, but The item is really cheap, and I think the effect is really strong, especially when we go towards the mid to late game. So yeah, that's the main idea here. I decided to pick up 2 more packs of Mustangs, trying to deal with the flanks. My opponent actually doesn't move his Phoenixes, or moves them backwards slightly, also upgrades them and adds some crawlers in front to try and distract possible Mustangs. Also goes with more crawlers on the side, by the way. These were added last turn, and even more being added this very turn. And the tower actually already goes down. I did not really deal with the rush that was happening on my right tower. I tried to put down a sentry missile, but I believe it went onto 3 crawlers rather than on the Phoenixes, which was my hope. And yeah, both towers going down. It's kind of okay though. Both towers going down means that, you know, I don't have to deal with staggered debuffs. But again, my Mustang's not in the best position and dying really quickly. And with only the balls remaining, it is a rinse and repeat from the last 2 rounds. Rat once more prevailing and managing to deal some good damage. Alright, here we're offered several options, and I don't like any of these. I don't think I'll get any value out of these actives. I don't think I want more steel balls, because right now they're not really doing all that much. And they're not good counters to what my opponent is doing. And the shield device specialist is just not a fantastic card when I go aggressive, because I won't get much value out of it. So rather deciding to go for the 50 credits, and I believe my opponent does the same thing here. Nothing would really help him all that much. I decided to pick up some crawlers on the sides with replicate, because my opponent actually has fangs over here which my crawlers can feast on. The crawlers here should also win and multiply, which should create a distraction, which means I don't have to worry so much about the right side anymore. And over here, it's more or less the same thing. My opponent again moves his Phoenixes, by the way, and picks up a mobile beacon. I was so surprised when I saw this in game. And kind of impressed, to be honest. Rat really showing off his map awareness and finds a gap into my defense, or at least thinks he finds one. Let's see how this works out, and tries to go for the turret again. Also now grabbing final blitz rhinos, one of my personal favorites as well, to deal with my steel balls. Luckily, these level 2 steel balls had the shield, and the explosion was absorbed by the shield. And even though my Mustangs are able to turn around and deal with the Phoenixes that were mobile beaconed, the Rhino actually gets through and does punch the tower to get the debuff. On the right side, we're looking good. Crawlers have multiplied and are doing a good job at distracting these level 2 Phoenixes. Level 2 steel balls on the left also able to take out the tower, and that means that finally I will be able to deal some damage back to Rat, almost 1000 in a round, so pretty happy with that. Again, Orbital shows up. I don't really like that option. Same reason as before. My opponent has really mobile units, so it's hard for me to guess. Also, it's very spread out, so I don't think I'll get value out of it. Ranged Specialist could be okay, but it is a really expensive card. Barrier is picked up by my opponent as he is a giant specialist, but for me, I decide to skip. I'm not really looking to go for giants in this situation, and instead deciding to go for the econ. Didn't pick up the range because my opponent is really close to me, so I don't think I need that necessarily. Again, Rat decides to move his Phoenix back and mobile beacon them into the right side this time. Seems that he might have figured out another way to get to the tower, as this side is a little unpopulated right now. I decide to pick up wasps here. Reason being is that my opponent only has phoenixes, and phoenixes don't necessarily like dealing with wasps. And also, wasps are one of my few units that I do run electromagnetic on, and that means I can potentially disable the final blitz tech on the rhinos and save my units from dying to the explosion. Another rhino being spawned in on the right now, though. We'll have to see how that goes. I do put down a sentry missile to try and deal with a potential rush, but yep, again, going on to, I think, 2 crawlers there, and the phoenixes will be able to fly in. I wanted to say run in, but that's not quite what they do. And again, my turret goes down for I don't know how many times this game. I think every single round I've lost one, if not both turrets. On the left side, things are looking better though. Wasps are indeed distracting the phoenixes for a very long time. And the right side does actually manage to win in spite of the debuff. Opponent went for a fortress there. Fortress does go down. And I somehow managed to win the round. And that was, mind you, even a fortress with barrier. So quite a convincing round for me there. Also, having the Mustangs, or having the steel balls probably does help with getting the tower, or getting the shield. So that works out well. I think both of us here decide to go for missile strike. Unless I decide to skip. In any case, yeah, I do decide to go for missile strike. My opponent, I mean, this is a logical decision, right? Can take out my pack of Mustangs and do some good damage on the steel balls. Could also have tried to send it over to the left if he wanted. Now, I play this quite often. Rhinos with Final Blitz is something I do like to use to basically counter steel ball rushes, and so I know that my opponent, once that electromagnetic comes out, is likely to invest into photon coating, and that is exactly what happens. So to prevent this from still working, I decide to go for 2 hackers with barrier. Barrier really good to protect my Mustangs, of which I do have quite a few now. And the hackers will be able to basically hack the rhinos, and I hope that with that I'll be able to mitigate some of the explosion damage. Left one does get hacked, but there's so many rhinos over here that all of the explosions do take out the steel balls. But on the right side, I managed to pretty much hack a full health rhino that's now storming towards the tower, and somehow manages to evade one of the final shots from the phoenixes, gets the tower debuff, and is now making its way over to the left turret as well. Barrier goes down. My Mustangs seem to be holding on just fine. And with the rest of my units now arriving, looks like I'll be able to take over another round. Debuff hits my opponent, and yep, I even managed to hack my opponent's fortress there right at the end. Hacker comes in just in time, and that is a lot of damage. That is a lot of damage. None of these cards, again, look very good, and I decide to skip, and so does my opponent. Needs the credits to try and turn this around. I immediately decide to go for even more hackers, because I think the shields do really well, and my opponent picked up a bunch of rhinos, which he won't be able to get rid of. So I think that just grabbing more hackers is the correct play for me, and will be able to basically win me the game. So let's see how that happens. My opponent tries to go for the turret. I do have the hacker though. Now positioned on the sides to deal with these flanking rhinos. My opponent, by the way, also sold his crawlers on the sides after the replicate came out. So did manage to prevent me from basically building a massive crawler army. Now, more fortresses are being placed down. The fortresses also had anti-air barrage and now also have rocket punches. So We'll have to see how this goes. I do again have the charge shot on these Mustangs and on my Wasps. So if some of them somehow manage to survive the initial anti-air barrage, I may be able to disable the tech, which would be really good for me. And with that, let's get into round 7. Rhinos get hacked immediately, and over here, Rhino dies, but away from all of my units, so the explosion is no problem whatsoever. And hackers are locking onto the fortresses. One of them went down, but the other one's still alive and actually able to hack the fortress. On the right side, same thing. Tower goes down, and with that, the game is over and I am able to successfully defend. I have to say this game was really entertaining. I really enjoyed playing against this. And I think it showcases from my side how to defend and think, okay, what is my opponent going to do in this situation? I am quite familiar with the final blitz tech on Rhinos, so I understood that I could get away with buying electromagnetic for a round, and that after that I needed the hackers because photon coating would be coming. So that's a bit of experience. And on the other side, I think it showcased for my opponent really good and creative use of jump drive phoenixes to get to towers. I think the initial rounds are definitely something that is very positive and you can take away from this and try in your own games. Perhaps not this early on, but definitely in later rounds. Sometimes you will be able to see like, hey, my opponent actually has turrets that are quite vulnerable, and what can I do to get to those and potentially win a round by making good use of the debuff that taking a tower gives you. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this game. I certainly did. If you like the content, feel free to subscribe so you stay up to date to all of my latest content. Give the video a like and comment if there's something you want to say. And yeah, see you in the next video. Bye-bye.